There's nobody who can watch and take care of my kids and be there like me or my wife. What I provide is worth so much more than a check. I provide guidance, presence, love, sometimes disappointment. I'm here. I give everything. And there is nothing more manly than a man who takes care of his kids.
It can be easy to not understand what it is to be a man. There are so many different versions, so many different considerations that we have to think about when we think about manhood. There's so many topics we could have about masculinity, fatherhood, husbandry. There are so many topics we could go into when it comes to what it is to truly be a man. I've been pondering it myself. Some of you guys might have even heard some of the conversations that I've had with my brothers from the group When Men Are Intimate. And one thing that I have learned is that men are to be not only respected, but admired, cherished, treated as though they are worth more than we often think they're worth. Sometimes we appreciate men for the work of their hands, but what of the work of their hearts? That is where we sometimes miss it as men. We miss that the things we do with our hearts as fathers and as husbands and as owners, it matters. And the man that I have brought on to talk tonight is a person who you guys are going to love. He is someone who often raises the important questions. What does it mean to be a man? Not only that, but to get you to understand that, as he says in his podcast, men are the prize. And so I'm going to tell you guys, first of all, you need to know that Jason is not here today. Okay. And so that means that the kids are running the prison. Okay. I don't know what I'm going to do because the handcuffs are off because he's not going to reel me in. And I'm kind of excited about it. This conversation we're about to have, I don't know where it's going. I'm not going to pretend I know where it's going. But one thing I'll tell you, when I joined this man, Harvey, when I joined him for his podcast, some of the places we went in our conversation, I still remember the words. And it was probably January, February that we talked. And some of the lines, the one-liners, have not left my spirit and not left my heart. So with that, I want to introduce to you all Harvey Laguerre. Welcome to Hope Rising.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been waiting to talk to you ever since you mentioned that you were going to be doing your own podcast. I need to get on here and talk with this man. So I appreciate your time. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate your time as well. So, Harvey, I don't know the best way for us to start. I'll ask you this question first. I'll throw you a softball. When somebody walks up to you and says, Harvey, who are you? What is the answer that you give?
Who am I? I am an amalgamation of a lot of things. I am a stay-at-home father of 4 crazy children. I am a husband of the one, because she's my one. She's the one person for me. And I am the continuous struggle in being a better person every day, being a better man every day. I gotta say, I may go off the point here, but at the beginning when you were talking, something hit me. And whenever we talk, we have these moments, and then I get hit. And our conversation was phenomenal. You were talking about manhood, and something hit me because you told me a secret that you don't tell the world, and I will choose not to do that. But it brought to mind something that I like to do. My way of relaxing, of dealing with life, of getting away, is I love to listen to music. I like my headphones, darkness. I like to put Kind of Blue on. Give me Miles. Cut the lights. Let me get my headphones in and let me just chill. And when you were talking about that, for some reason, fatherhood, which is a lot of what I do, came to mind. And I'm like, if I can parallel music and fatherhood, it occurred to me that my father is the original. I'm the sample of him, and my child is the remix. And I sat there and I'm like, this is the guy. And I live trying to be as good as the original. And in my attempts to be as good as that man, I use some of what I've learned from him. I use some of what I've seen from him, but I add layers to make it sound different. Then I bring somebody else into the world, and my child is the amalgamation of my father and me. And I feel like that's a remix. And I'm like, I love music and I love fatherhood. I'm like, and not until I was around you did this hit me. Like, and I feel like it's something I'm going to do something with. I am constantly in thought. I am trying constantly to be a better person for myself, my kids, my wife, my community, my city, my world, for the men that I get to speak with, such as you, for the men that I coach, for the men who come to me for solace, for a wall to beat on because life is kicking their butt, for anything. I'm just a man here trying to be better in a bunch of different ways. And sometimes I succeed, and sometimes it's a struggle.
Mm. Ooh, we about to have us a deep conversation. There was about 20 different things that you said there. First of all, the fact that you listed so many I ams and very few of them had anything to do with what you do is a rarity in this day and age. And you know that. And I've heard many of your conversations. And so, I understood that that was probably how you were going to approach things. But how many of you who are listening today can almost be inspired, motivated, captivated by the thought that a person could use that many words to describe themselves, and very few of them described what they do other than the continual yes to growth and maturity. There is something to be said for being willing to be the sample, but to also understand that you are both the sample and the remix. Because it's not as though your father was the first generation. And so in some ways, a remix will often infuse an original sample so that a person, their ears perk up, their heart perks up because they remember a thing that happened in the past. And yet the infusion of now hits you. And in so many ways, you are already the remix. And the greatest thing that a remix can do is to give permission to the next level to be another remix. I think even about, and Harvey, you know what I'm saying when I talk about this. I am in just a few months, I'll be 40 years old. And so I'm of this like really golden time where they realized that these really great movies were made in my childhood, like in the late 1980s, right? There were so many excellent movies that they have been just trying to crank them out over the last few years because they understand we got to bring them back. And there's a different flair and there's a different spin. And yet sometimes you also understand that there's some parts of the original you don't want to mess with and you don't want to touch. So my question for you, as the man that you are and the man you are yet still becoming, is what have you taken from the past and what are you still reinventing that the past cannot have on the version of you as you move forward?
What I've taken from the past is that there's a difference between being in a house and being present in a house. As a parent, it is imperative that I'm not just in the same room as you in relation to my children or my wife. I need to be in the room with you spiritually. I need to be there. I can be in the room with my kids, but I need to be in the room with my kids. There was something, Jill Scott, who I love, was, I think, on the Breakfast Club, and she was talking, and she said something, and I'm going to paraphrase. And I think they'd mentioned to her about how you listen to men. And she says something along the lines of, if you can tell me what to do, you can tell me what to do. But if you can tell me what to do, you can tell. In other words, you can just say it. But if you are who you say you are, if you're the kind of man that you are, then you can really tell me what to do. And it's not insulting. It's not because I'm this man and this masculinity. It's because of my presence. I can say, go clean your room, go do your homework. Or I can say, I need you to focus on your homework and I need your room to be clean. Because I can come, there's context. There's context with being there as opposed to just being around. So I had a
Being
father
there
who was
versus just being around.
right. Like you could just be there, but are you really there?
Hmm.
And there's a difference. I'm home with my kids. I have 3 daughters. I can be around, or am I in it with you? Am I in the ish with you? I can just be around, or am I in the struggle with you? Are you comfortable enough to tell me about what you're going through? And I have daughters, and they're not going to tell me everything, but comfortable enough where they will tell me some things. But that's because I put the work in, I put the time in, I put the effort in. I was there for practice all week so that when the big game came, they could talk to me. I'm not just around, I'm in it. I'm in the struggle. And I didn't have that as a child. So I make sure my kids get that. That's what I picked up from the past. Um, what I'm continually working on is, for my daughters, it's so important that they see, that they live, that they absorb what it's like to be around a man who respects and appreciates them.
Hmm.
Because of what I grew up in, I didn't see that. I make sure I am that. 3 daughters who see how their mother is treated. That's the queen. This is the queen of this house. That is your mother. You will not disrespect her. You will not, there's not a cross word. There's nothing said to their mom, my wife. And the same. I'm the father, I'm the parent that's there around. So I'm gonna get some of the attitude and such. But if that's said around mom, they know better. It is important that my girls see how they're supposed to be treated. And it's important for them to see how they're going to treat the man that they're going to be with. I grew up in a house where it was incredibly toxic. Arguments weren't just yelling. There was a lot more to it.
Mm-hmm.
It is important that my girls can see me and my wife disagree like adults. We can have conflict, but we know how to deal with it. My daughters see conflict dealt with like an adult. We know how to fight.
Stop,
Not
stop,
big.
stop, stop, stop,
See?
stop, 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 stop right there. Ooh, I need you to stop right there. Ooh, I need you to break that down, Harvey. You said we
I'm
know how to fight.
yes.
Come on.
And
What does that
we
mean?
can disagree. We can disagree. I can be upset. I can be mad at what you said and how you said it and who you said something to. But it's here. And then maybe we step away and we're not in front of them, but we argue, we disagree. We disagree as adults. And we do it without it's going past the line that it should never. We know how to disagree like adults. There's a way, and there's a way not to do it. My daughters see that I can disagree, but there is never an iota of concern about it getting violent or physical or crossing a line. I can argue. My wife, I mean, we've never really gotten at it in front of our kids, But these girls know that it could happen, and that's as far as it's going to go. We're going to talk it out. We're not going to fight it out physically. So we know how to deal with conflict within each other. And when you know how to deal with conflict, when you know how to be in conflict, you're better for it. I have a 19-year-old son who knows that I never step out of a room with a door with my daughters and my wife first. It is ingrained in him that that door is opened by me.
Come on.
So then, as he grew up with me and he was with me, that door does not open unless he opens it now. And those girls do not step in after. They go first. There is respect. I'm doing a lot to train my kids, and train sounds like a wrong word, so that these kids understand how we treat each other. And the best way to show it is to be it. I am a respectable, loving husband. I'm a tough dad. I'm fair. I have my problems too. And that's another thing. I don't think I ever heard my parents apologize for any issues, anything that they did. I'm not a perfect parent. I have moods. I deal with these kids primarily. Sometimes I'm just annoyed. I can honestly look at my kid and say, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I shouldn't have spoken that way. I was wrong if I accused you of something you didn't do. I was wrong. It is imperative that our kids see that we are mortal, that we're human, that we mess up. Our kids need to know that we are mortal. We are not perfect. I may be the person you look up to, but the person you look up to has his moments, has his struggles. And if I'm allowed to have my moments, to have my struggles, to be wrong, so can you. Could walk around this world and know that you're not perfect, and it's okay. You can see me having a tough day and I'm sad, but I deal with it. It's okay.
You know,
There's
I've heard
so
that.
much.
I've heard that called the gift of imperfection, right? And it is a rare quality in this day and age to sit around other people who are willing to say, I missed it. I got it wrong. I'm a big sports guy, Harvey, and I love football more than any other sport. But I love football, I love basketball. I haven't been much of a baseball guy since I was a kid. Really don't watch hockey, not gonna lie about it. But I like sports, and then I will occasionally watch some tennis. Um, and one thing that I know is that the greatest ones, they lose, and they don't just lose, they miss, right? And so I often think about this when I talk to clients, and I know you yourself are also a coach. And it's this concept that if I was to be a world class basketball player, which I promise you I'm not, if I was, I would miss at least half of my shots. If I was a world class baseball player, I would miss at least 7 out of 10 times. And yet in life, not only are we unwilling to miss, but we're unwilling to acknowledge when we miss. And there is something in that that holds us back ultimately, not only from our personal progress and our personal perseverance in life, like the ability to overcome and persevere through a thing, but we also limit the ones that come after us. I am quick to tell my daughter, I'm sorry, daddy missed that. Daddy got it wrong. I say the word quick. I mean, I'm only so quick. There's some times where, the pride kicks in, but I try my best to say, I'm sorry. Daddy did forget. I'm sorry. Daddy did get that wrong. And I partially do it because I never heard it. And there are some things in my life I feel like there's a little Maurice on the inside is almost still waiting to hear, I'm sorry. I got it wrong. And what if we model now to our children, to our wives, to our clients, to the people who love us? You're not going to get it all right. But if you take ownership of the things you get wrong, it will make you more right in the end.
Oh my goodness. Facts. Facts. You were talking about this, and my favorite sport is baseball. I'm a baseball person to
Who's
my
your
core.
team?
And I'm a Mets fan. I
Okay.
was
Okay.
born in New York, and yes,
Let's
and we
go.
stink, and we
Let's
will
go.
continue to stink. But it is what it is. It's fandom.
Hey,
I had no
let me tell you
choice in
something
the
about the
matter.
Cleveland Indians and the fact that we ain't won a World Series since 1948. Okay.
Yeah,
We're all done
it
with that
was
conversation.
Boston, and they won, and now you
Yeah.
guys are the one. What's up?
I'm still waiting for 1995 and 1999. If we could
You
just
were
have a
so
replay.
good.
If we could
Oh
just have a
my god,
replay,
Kenny
bro.
Lofton, Albert
Come
Bell, you
on,
guys were
man.
crazy.
Come on,
Manny was
man.
on that team.
Come on, man.
What?
I'm an
That made
11-year-old
no
kid.
sense.
I'm an 11-year-old kid, and I just know we are going to win a World Series. And let's just be clear that just did not work out. Heartbreak.
Oh, I remember that. Oh, I feel your pain. I feel your pain. So we learn the most when we lose. When I mess up with my wife in whatever situation, with raising my son and my daughters, those are the moments. Those are the important moments when I can say, you know what, I apologize. And that's good for my child to see it. But do I really pick up something from that moment? Why did I miss this? Why did I forget? These are the moments where I'm a better husband, father, coach, whatever. When I realized that I swung and I missed bad, that curveball dropped in front of me and I barely got a swing on. Or somebody threw that touchdown pass and I was alone in the end zone and I dropped it. Why? What did I miss? What did I do? And how can I be better? Now that I know why I missed, what do I take with that lesson? And it is important. It's imperative. It's required to understand that we're going to lose a lot. But every loss doesn't have to be a loss. A lot of those losses can be a win.
Harvey, I got to pivot right now because that line that you just said made me think of something that you and I talked about. There was a phrase that was said in our conversation, and the phrase was, negativity sticks, positivity bounces. Do you remember that?
Oh, that might be my favorite moment. And I've done countless episodes of my podcast, but that moment really, really stuck with me. And that's why I love talking with you. We just have these moments of and that just came out. And we both were like, okay, that's legit. That's
100%
serious. And it's so true. And I don't know if we were talking about relationships or, talking to our wives or whatever, but that's definitely what it was. Cause I know I had mentioned, I could tell my wife 99 times, wow, girl, you are good. If I said once, you look a little fat in that dress. That's all she will remember. That's it. We hold on to the bad stuff, and the good stuff just bounces away. It just flutters away. We hold on to the wrong things. And I think it's an important thing for men. We do. I talk to a lot of men, and I'm talking about this coaching thing. And I'll talk to a man, and we'll eventually get to something that happened to him in high school. It could be something as simple as he didn't make the football team, and he didn't have anybody to talk to about it. I thought he was going to be the star running back, blah, 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 whatever. And he didn't make it. And since he didn't have anybody to talk to about it, it just sat there. So he didn't make the team. Then he didn't get into the college that he wanted to. Then he didn't get the promotion that he wanted to. And it's all of these just times he feels like he did not make it. Times he did not step up. And these things they just build. It gets worse and worse and worse. And now you got a man who doesn't feel like he had any self-esteem, any worth. And if he had just had maybe a father or, dare I say, a friend to talk to, his father would have been, hey, man, it happens. We don't always make it, but the fact that you put the effort in and you tried was important. Or if you have a friend who's like, you know what? I didn't make it either. We both going through this, but we're still good people. You're not alone. There's so many moments like that where the negativity hits us. And if we had had an opportunity, an outlet to get it out, we'd so much better. But when we don't, we keep it. suck it in, we absorb it, and then it comes out in a bad way. And I spent a lot of time talking to men. What happened? What's this thing that happened to you? And how did you resolve it? And when there's nothing to say at that moment, then I'm like,
You
did you
didn't
resolve
resolve
it?
it.
You didn't even fix that, did
Mhm.
you? And that was, you were 13 and that's 14. You 30 something now. And that's still sitting here, brother. You weren't meant to make the team. You were not meant to be on that team.
Mm.
And it's okay. And sometimes you can see the weight, and you coach men, and you can see the weight just come off. And it's so different. But you're right, negativity's, it's so bad, and it just sits there. And we all have something that we don't let go of. And that's kind of, I'm pretty sure that's what we do. We try to get it moved. I know you do the same with your man. I'm just trying to get you to move past this stuff. It shouldn't weigh you down.
You know, there's so many goodies in that. Before I respond, if you guys are listening today, I don't know if you're listening, I don't know if you're watching, I don't know what you're doing, but I got to encourage you. Would you share this episode? There is a man that you know that needs to hear these words, needs to hear this encouragement. Let's face it, conversations like this amongst men are not normal normal enough. They need to be normalized. There's a brother that you know, there's a husband, there's a father that you know, there's a coworker that you know. They need to hear this conversation. Would you send it to them if you haven't done it yet? And if you haven't yet, would you make sure that you subscribe to this podcast also? Look, I'm just trying to make sure that that these numbers continue to build, that the movement itself continues to build as we spread hope. There is so much to be said there that one of the ways that I often put it is that normal, ordinary moments can have extraordinary results if not confronted and healed from. That it is normal to have disappointment. It is normal to have failure. It is normal to have heartbreak. It is normal to have loss. There's so many things in life that are normal. But if we take the moments, pretend that they don't happen, or pretend that they don't have the impact that they really have, then that's what you really ultimately were describing, was that now I have all of these heartbreaks and frustrations and failures building one on top of another. And now I have a mountain of depression, or a mountain of anxiety, or a mountain of grief that feels unavoidable, undeniable, and unsurmountable, right? Is it insurmountable or unsurmountable? Insurmountable? Insurmountable.
Yep.
It feels
Yep.
insurmountable. Don't judge my life, guys. Anyway, but it becomes an insurmountable thing because of the fact that we've never dealt. And you know, it's so interesting as you were answering the question, and you were saying, you know, what if you had another guy that you talk to? And I thought to myself, and that almost never happens. That if you talk about your feelings, or you talk about your emotions, or you talk about your frustrations, unless you're talking to an Eeyore, you guys remember Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh? Hey Pooh, right? Unless it is a Debbie Downer who you're gonna talk, and you're gonna talk yourselves into deeper depression, right? Unless it's that conversation. Oftentimes we don't have conversations where we sit in a room, person to person, let alone man to man. I find myself thinking about the fact that if people, let alone men, could actually sit down and have these types of conversations, and I don't just mean, like, you know, they say misery loves company, and so two miserable individuals having conversations where they go deeper and deeper and lower, but I mean conversations where it's, bro, this was a rough week. I took a couple L's. Yeah, man. Me too. How you feeling? Bro, it hurts. It's making me question myself. I'm questioning it, like, am I crazy? Am I talentless? What's going on? Yeah, me too. All right, cool. How we going to grind better next week? How do we pick things up? How do we learn from this? What's the lesson? What's the lesson you're taking from your L? My lesson is this. Your lesson is that. And if we can learn how to do that with one another, right? Now what we have is communities full of individuals who are picking themselves up one failure at a time in humility, because all of those failures ultimately grow humility in you. Ooh, I got to humble out because I ain't perfect.
Right.
I don't get it all right.
So true. It's interesting, and I hear you talk. Like I said, these I'm just stuff just hits me. Normal is such an interesting word. We all go through. We always have bad things that happen to us, and I think we talk about manhood. We talk about masculinity. Boys and girls, we have our struggles, our disappointments, things that we want that we don't always get. And the difference that I think it is that we all have bad things or questionable things that happen to us. But the difference is that for our girls, we talk to them and we allow them to be emotional about situations and express them. We don't do that with our boys. We, in terms of responding to situations. So for us, it's not what happens, is how we deal with it. Our girls are emotional, cry, talk, whatever. Boys, rub some dirt on it and keep it moving. And we do that from the beginning so that by the time he's 10 or 11, something could happen to him. Anything, the girl that he liked broke his heart. And it's not tell somebody or talk to somebody about it. It's really say something negative about her. Oh, she wasn't worth my time, or blah, 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 or we take anger is how we respond to it. We're not allowed to properly respond to situations emotionally without being belittled for it, without being attacked for it. If we can treat our boys the way we treat our girls and just say, what happened? How'd you feel about that? You okay? Did you handle it the right way? You don't think you did? How would you handle it next time? What will you do next time? Because it may happen again. Life is full of disappointment. But how you handled it now, maybe not the best way. In a few years, or maybe tomorrow, when it happens again, what do you do? And when you can deal with struggle and learn how to deal with it, and then the next day handle it better, and then the next day handle it even better, and the next day handle it even better, when you can. Life is just jabs. We're just dealing with jabs left and right. And if you can just move around, and sometimes you're gonna get hit, but you know how to handle it. And most of the time you're moving, but you can handle it, and nobody else is getting that negativity from you because you know how to deal with it yourself. As men, we need to be allowed to respond to situations, and we need to be taught how to do so.
Oh my goodness. You just said something that was so profound. I feel like you changed my life. I don't know if anybody else had this moment, right? But I'm going to tell you what I just saw. So Harvey says, y- 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 life is going to throw jabs and you just got to keep bobbing, right? And I was picturing a fighter and how a fighter is constantly in motion. When I am willing to accept the emotions that I have and deal with the emotions I have, I'm able to move with them and adapt and adjust. It is the bobbing and weaving of the fighter in the fight of their life. But when I pretend that I'm not feeling what I'm feeling and I'm not experiencing what I'm experiencing, I literally become frozen in time and in spaces and in places on the inside of me. And now I take continuous jabs and continuous jabs and continuous uppercuts. And how many people, Harvey, do we meet? And I have been this description. Let's be clear. I ain't just talking like I haven't had brokenness or that I don't. There are parts of me who are still stuck in 1997. There are parts of me that are still stuck in 1989. There are because some parts of me stopped bobbing and weaving in life. And I wonder what would happen if we normalize saying, look, the moment happened, lean into it. What do you mean lean into it? Lean into the moment. That's what you described when you described fatherhood, and you described being a stay-at-home dad, and you described being a husband, and being a podcaster. That's what you described to me. You said, I make sure I show up in the moment. Well, not every moment that you show up in is good. Not every moment you show up in is fun. Some moments make you feel crazy. Some moments are heart-wrenching and heartbreaking, but when you lean in, that's the bob and the weave that keeps you fighting. That's what I heard you say.
I didn't say that in those exact words, but yes, that's what I meant. And I love that you caught that all. Thank you, brother. I gotta say, wow, I sound amazing. Thank you for that. But as you told me what you hear and what I get from that is that that's what life is. Life is just, and because we both love music, we're talking about boxing, as brutal a sport as it is also one of the more beautiful.
It's a
sports.
dance. Boxing is a
It is
fascinating
beautiful.
dance.
So when I'm watching and you're talking about bobbing and weaving, and I'm hearing, and I'm like, to a degree, my kids, I'm trying to get them on my rhythm. I'm trying to get my kids to move with me, or I'm trying to teach them why I move this way or why I move this way. And then when they get it, maybe we're doing it together so that we deal with conflict the exact same way, that we deal with life the same way, so that even though I'm not there, I guess I've already taught them the dance. I've taught them the movements. I taught them the proper defensive stance. I taught them that, with life, you can keep negativity away with the proper jab. Good jab. You can keep the bad stuff right there. Or when the negativity comes and you've done your best to deal with it and it keeps coming, then maybe the right hand is the thing that you need to get it away from you permanently. But what you need is to understand that life really is a dance. It's very much a movement, and done properly, it's smooth. Occasionally you hit a little turbulence, but once you get past that, then you go back to that good smooth movement. So I'm trying to get my kids with me, working with me. But then, since at the beginning I mentioned that my child would be a remix, inevitably my child is going to come up with his or her own dance.
Come on.
And that's when I know I've done well. When my child maybe was following my lead, was listening to my music, was listening to Biggie like I did, but they've moved on and now they found their own thing. So now they listen to Drake. But they learn from me, and what they learn from me allowed them to create their own movement, their own.
That's so good.
Their everything. When you do it right, and it's hard when your kids are good enough where they don't really need you. You've done them right. You've prepared them. I talk so much about being a father because I enjoy it. Being a father is one of the things that I do well, and I pride myself on that because I'm here. Because I talk to my kids and I'm learning with them and I'm teaching them some stuff, but I'm learning with them. I learn talking to my 17-year-old. Now I know what worked and what didn't work with her. I know what'll work with the 8-year-old or with the 13-year-old. Understanding that I will never know everything, but I'm willing to learn every day is just being a man, being a father, being a husband, podcasting, whatever I do, being able to adapt to every jab, every undercut, every right hand that's coming to my face, and be able to step out of the way, understand I'm going to get hit sometimes, but I'm going to learn from that punch. Life is hard, but it's so rewarding when you do right, when you continue to try to do right and pass that down to the people that we're raising and to yourself.
That's so good. I was thinking, I often just see things visually, and I know you love the 80s, and I was thinking of this movie from the 1980s. I think it's from the 80s. I don't think it was the early 90s. I think this one was the 80s. Rocky III, which I believe was still in the 80s.
It should, yeah, it should be.
So Rocky 3, this is the one where Rocky is fighting Clubber Lang, also known as Mr. T.
Yes, sir.
And he goes and he gets his butt just annihilated. Clubber Lang is just a bad boy. And Rocky has to go train with Apollo. And I was thinking as you were talking about this scene where Rocky and Apollo are in the ring and they're moving in unison together, and it looks like this orchestrated dance, and they're jabbing one way, then they're moving the other way, and the Rocky music is playing, and Rocky is training, and he has taken on the style and the approach of another champion, and yet in the end you know that he'll have to be 100% himself in order to win the fight. That there is a level of perseverance and determination that he'll need to win, but he is modeling the steps and the moves of another champion. And that is essentially what we are all learning how to do as individuals. The reality is there are some battles that I have to fight, that you have battled in your life that I haven't fought in my own life yet. And when I hit it, those are those moments where sometimes people got to reach out to one another and go, Harvey, my oldest is 4, your oldest is 19. We got to talk. What am I doing? and all essentially that a person can do, because you were talking about training your child. I'm a God guy, so scripture says train up a child in the way that he should go. So I wasn't bothered by the word train, right? But even if I thought about it like a trainer in boxing, essentially sometimes what mentors do, what coaches do, and what brothers do is they tell you how they trained to fight. And they tell you how they learned how to move their feet and how to bob and weave and how to take the hits and also give the hits necessary. And then they cheer you on because you have to go fight your own fight. You got to walk through your battle.
That's it. That's life. I can give you some information. We don't show our boys how to take the little grains of information, the little bits of knowledge. We don't show our kids enough, our boys, how to take something and use it in a way that benefits them. You don't have to do everything exactly how I do things, but if you understand why I may do something, you'll probably handle the situation better and handle it your own way. I can help you. This is what I did in this situation. It was tough and I dealt with it. And I can tell my son that, and he can hear it, and then a situation will come along. And I may not handle it exactly the way my dad did, but I know what the end. I know what the end game is. Therefore, I'm going to figure out the way that would work for me, the way that makes me comfortable to handle a situation. Teaching, it's a continuous, and it's a proud thing to do, to teach my kids. And I can get you as far as the door. It's up to you to open it and then handle your situations the right way.
Come on.
And for me, if I raise good people, which is my main thing, I raise good people. Good people, even if I haven't taught you how to handle every situation, good people have a pretty good idea how to handle a situation that is new to them because they're good in general. They're not going to do something bad. I don't want my kids to be like, oh, what would dad do? But what would dad tell me to do in this situation?
Wait, explain that distinguishing, because that's so good.
There is my dad. There's me. I would do something this way. I'm a talker. Yap, 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 yap. My dad knows me. My dad knows that in certain situations, I may not talk my way out of it. I may do something else. Would my dad say talk? Would my dad say leave? Would my dad say such and such? He would probably say in this situation, you don't need to be here. You don't gain anything from here. My dad would say, go. I take a hard right and I'm out and I'm safe. My kids know me. They know themselves. They know what I would suggest, but they know that I know them so that they can, to a degree, that's what dad would probably say. He would probably say, you don't need to do this. You don't need to be around this. You weren't wrong in this case. Or you know what? You were wrong in this case. So having that in the child's head having them think about situations. The fact that I'm thinking about situations and not just automatically reacting, that's just another benefit. My child doesn't just do something bad. My child thinks about it first.
Sure does.
Thinks about what I would say. Thinks about what I would think about them. There's so much. Just the whole conversation about parenthood is something we could go the complete opposite direction of. But it brings me pride to make sure that I send out fantastic agents into the world. And that's what my kids are. They're my agents.
I I would be remiss. I'm looking at the clock and I'm thinking about how long we've already been talking, and there's some things I really want to dig into because I think it's necessary, and I don't want to miss my moment. I don't want to miss a good moment. By the way, if you guys are loving this conversation, what have been your takeaways so far? Make sure you're leaving comments. What have been the things that really touched you? And of course, if you're loving this conversation, Harvey has not one, but two different podcasts he'll be telling you about, before he's gone. So, and one of them is with his lovely wife. So at the end of the day, you got multiple opportunities to hear this man talk and his brilliance and his wisdom. And one thing I'm thinking about, it's so sad that Jason's not here today, because Jason is a stay-at-home father. And it is a something that is not seen all that often in our country. And even from my life is very non-traditional at this point. I'm not a complete stay-at-home father. I have a business and I work a job. But in the last couple of years of my life, I stayed home far more than what I would be accustomed to, what I would have predicted. And at some points, it's been very hard. And I've just been thinking about the identity that you have, the strength that you have of your identity. When we're talking about manhood, the fact that you can be a strong, bold, powerful man and not be overwhelmed by the stereotypes of what some people think a powerful, strong, masculine man should look like, in terms of the fact that he should be the breadwinner when in fact your wife is. Can you talk a little bit about your character, your integrity, your identity, and how it is unwavering in the roles that you play?
I take parenting incredibly serious. If you've listened to me talk, whether it's on my podcast or even now, my children, how I treat them, how they treat others is incredibly important to me. To me, this whole idea of what a man is, all of it is ridiculous. All of it, and I refuse to accept it. I refuse. What started off as myself, my wife, and myself working, then my job saying, we don't really need you to come back. Don't come back. So now I'm at home because I no longer have a job. And I never liked other people watching my kids. I don't like it. Daycare is a necessity for some, but if I can avoid it, I will. So when I lost my job, then I'm home and I looked for jobs, but then by then I'm home.
What year was that? How long ago was that?
Let's see, we're going on 5 years now.
Okay.
Yeah. So first I had my mother-in-law who had retired and she was with us and taking care of the kids, bus stop, picking them up, helping them with their homework, dinner, because we were both working. But when it became just me, and it was great that she was there, but there's nobody who can watch and take care of my kids and be there like me or my wife. So at that point, I'm like, I am not babysitting my kids. I'm not watching the kids. I'm not helping my wife out. I am parenting. We are both parents. It took both of us for this child to get here. So the idea that men can only give financially is ridiculous. I don't provide money. What I provide is worth so much more than a check. I provide guidance, presence, love, sometimes disappointment. I'm here. I give everything. And there is nothing more manly than a man who takes care of his kids. That's what manhood is. I am here for my kids, whether it's a check or whether it's a hug. Whether it's buying those Christmas gifts or whether it's sitting down and talking to my son about the birds and the bees. Whether it's disagreeing with my daughter about dating because I think she's too young, Or then having that conversation with her about what does it mean to date? All these little things, all these little things, all that I'm doing to create a good child is part of me, part of the manhood, the masculinity that is living with me. I will be home with my kids. I will get them up. And that may not sound manly to you, but if you step to the family, you step to the wife, you step to the kids, you will be dealt with in a masculine way too. I am a man because I do what is necessary to take care of my wife, my kids, my community, everything. Every man should have a different definition of what it means to be a man. Nobody gets to tell me what it means to be a man. What you, Maurice, what you do to be a man, you are a man for doing it. Same for me. Same for my son when he leaves and he has a wife and kids. Manhood is defined, in my opinion, by every person, every man going through whatever he needs to take care of life, family, and everything. I am. It took me a second to get here. I can't lie. I'm like all automatic Superman, But it took me a minute because I'm Haitian. Like, what do you mean you at home and your
Yeah, you're
wife is
supposed to have
working? What are you
17
talking
jobs.
about?
Yeah, that's
Exactly. I'm supposed to be working. I'm like, no, 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 no. I have the most important job that is these kids are good because of me and my wife, but predominantly me in terms of the home. I am as much man as anybody else, and nobody's going to tell me different. You got a question about what kind of man I am? Look at my son. Look at my daughters. Look at my wife. Look at my life. We good. And it's because they have a strong man in their life, and that is me.
they sure do.
Question me and see what happens.
I have looked. I have looked. I haven't necessarily seen your kids, but I have looked from afar at what you represent. And you represent all that is not only a man, but a good man, and a man of integrity, a man of honor, a man of strength, a man of purpose. There are so many things that you represent in your manhood, that is truly an inspiration. I told you before the interview started, and I meant it. So when I first released my second book, Your Butt Is Too Big, I started just going podcast to podcast, and at this point, I don't even know how many podcasts I've been on, dozens, of course. And there are some conversations you have that are just so powerful and intriguing that you think, I need to stay connected to this human. Whether we talk all the time or it's just I have to wait until the every once in a while that it happens. There's certain people that you just go, God, I just need to know you better. You to me are one of those people in that there is such a strength that you bring to the table. And there's something about healthy masculinity, right? Powerful masculinity that is not toxic, where you boldly stand in who you are in a way that sure, life could shake you, but who you are, I don't feel like can be shaken. In other words, you say, this is who I am. This is who I bring to the table imperfectly. I understand that I am in process. I understand that I am always going to be growing and changing and maturing. And yet, I am me. And I don't know how much I needed this conversation today, but I needed this conversation today. Especially, as I just admittedly, there are times when I see the way certain people look at me, and the judgment that is on me for the way that I live and the way I carry myself, and I'm a man of prayer, and I put a lot of prayer and thought in conversations and how I do things. And when I talk to you, you give me courage to be myself. You give me courage to walk in my own boldness. And I feel like not enough could be said of that. That when a real man walks in the fullness of who he was born to be, it gives other people permission to walk in the fullness of who they were born to be.
Wow, I take that as I'm speechless. if anybody gets that from talking to me, I humbly appreciate that. I'm glad that I'm able to allow you to express how you feel. I do my best to try to be a real man, and I think being myself, and passing that down to the men that I speak to, that's really what I strive for. It's our conversation is one that I go back and I listen to episodes. I don't like listening to myself a lot, but I've listened to our conversation. I can't even tell you how many times.
Mm.
You are a real man. You've been a real man long before you met me. You showed me very much what it means to be a real man, and you spreading that knowledge to the world. There's a lot of men who need to be where you are. And your book, and just how you carry yourself, and how you speak, and how you express, and how you carry. I love watching and listening to that episode. It was fun, and I felt really good afterwards. I felt so inspired after we talked, and it's so there are very few people who do that. I've had great conversations, but ours was special. We recorded, and usually I wait. I put yours out like immediately. I needed to get that to the world. It needed to be you needed to be heard immediately. So it is a continuous pleasure. It is a continuous honor to speak to another real man out here. We need more of us. We raise good kids. We support good kids. They become better people because they have a real man in their life.
Oh, that's so
So
good. Some of you
I'm so
guys who are
glad.
watching today, you see that my daughter has just climbed into my arms. It is bedtime, and she has been watching. And one of my favorite things I've been doing, season 2. I did not do this in season 1 because I was kind of learning the ropes of podcasting. And not that I'm not still learning, but I feel very comfortable now just coming into my own as to what is my style and what do I need to bring to the table. And my daughter, she loves to sit in front of a camera and talk as though she's doing a podcast, and she's 4. And there was this deep down thought that I had of, oh, I don't want anybody in the room. And, I'm kind of a perfectionist, and I get very deep. And even there's some of these moments in this interview, it's been hard in moments because she's 4 and she acts like a 4-year-old. And yet I thought to myself, she needs to see this. She needs to see me in one of the versions of who I am. She needs me to see me walking in whatever my version of greatness is, to give her permission to walk in her version of greatness. And, one of the things she's been doing is she's been saying, Daddy, can I film you while you speak? And she'll take the camera and she'll film me, and then we'll watch it back later. There's something to be said for, and I'm learning, and I'm not pretending that I have it all figured out, because I don't. And I give 1,000,000% of the credit to my wife. 1,000,000. Because I didn't see this growing up, so I never would have done it. But to be present in front of my children, and I'm learning, and I'm not perfect, but in the moments where I can allow my children to see me, the real me, it gives them the courage to be the real them. And I want to just say to anybody who's listening today that my hope for you is that one of the things you got out of this conversation is that there is something in you that is so special, but it might be buried underneath some of those everyday life situations we talked about earlier that have gotten heavy and have been frustrating and have been stressful, that you may need to overcome as you go through this next part of your life. Harvey, there's a couple more questions that I have for you. And I guess, as we begin to wrap, I'll start off. I'm going to ask you just a general question. What is one thing? This is going to be so random as a question, but I already know you're going to go somewhere good with it. What's one thing you wish more people knew?
I I end my podcast. I end Man of the Prize with kind of a not a mantra, but it's just something I say to my listeners. And what I say is that I don't think we understand the impact that we have on others. I end my podcast and I'll just give you an idea. I'll talk to men as we move on. Thank you for listening. And I don't know if you know it, but there's somebody whose day is better because you walked in the room, because you called them, because you said something. A lot of times we deal with life and we're struggling. And it came to me because we have so many men who attempt suicide, who don't think that they matter. So I always end the podcast with you don't know it, but somebody's day is about to get better because you are part of their life. You called, you walked in, you said hello, you made a joke, you laughed, you did something. We don't understand how we impact other people. That smile that I come into the room with really made somebody's day who might have been having a really tough time, but they look forward to seeing me. They look forward to hearing me. Do you understand? Aside from family or friends, people love you. People love what you say, how it, how you mean it. People don't understand how very important we are to others. So I think that's something that it took me a while to realize is that what I do is good. I think I help a lot of people, but who I am is really good to a lot of people.
Ooh.
And I think a lot of people need to know that who you are is amazing to people you may never have a conversation with, or people who never tell you how important you are. You are important to so many people. Never forget you are on this earth for a reason. You are somebody's sunny sky. You are somebody's great song. You are the reason somebody made it to work on time that day. And make sure you remember, make sure you know that every step, every word, everything you do has a positive impact on somebody. I think that's something people don't know, how amazing we are for each other.
Well, they know now. Harvey, here's the $1 million question. This is the question that I ask every guest who joins me. And then afterwards, I want you to tell everybody where to find you. So I want you to imagine that it is 100 years from now. And there is a museum, and it is a museum of kind of this day in time. Inside of the museum, there is a room marked Hope. When you go into the room, there is a series of time capsules. And one of the time capsules is a time capsule marked Harvey Laguerre. There is audio recordings of you on your podcast with your wife and your podcast with yourself, and photos of you and your daughters and photos of you and your son and books that you've written and things and speeches you've had. And then there's this clip. And this is a clip that gets played for someone who is feeling hopeless. And they're listening to this so they can understand why hope is so important to you. What is hope to you, and why is it important?
Oh, when I was 18, I lost hope. When I had failed out of college, I didn't think there was hope. I had no self-esteem. I had nothing. I was just existing. But I got past that. Hope is dealing with how life can break you down. You can just, you clip a big man at the knee, he falls like anybody else. Hope is understanding that life can get at you, can fight you, can continually throw that jab or that right hand, but understanding that as many times as you do get knocked down, you get up. And not only do you get up stronger. You stand up straighter. Your shoulders are broad. You look at life and say, what you got now? I got this. Is that all you have for me? I can do more. Hope is recognizing that life is tough, but you tougher. I'm good no matter what you throw at me. I'm going to catch it. I'm going to send it back to you. And then I'm going to teach who comes after me how to throw better than I did. Hope is understanding that life is tough, but I'm tougher.
I think we're all a little bit tougher after this interview when we understand that true toughness is not the absence of pain, the absence of fear, the absence of heartbreak, the absence of lifing. But true toughness is the willingness to stand in the midst of it and persevere through it. This has been such a special conversation, and somebody has been listening today, or many somebodies. They want to know how to find you online. They want to know how to listen to you and to listen to other things that you bring to the table. What is the best way to find you?
First, thank you again. Pleasure. It is my honor to spend time talking with you. If you want to find me, there are a few ways. First, Men Are The P.R.I.Z.E, the podcast. As we record now, I'm preparing for season 3. That is coming January the 1st, 2024. We get back to it.
Let's go.
We get a man, take that man, and he is the star of the show. Men, we typically aren't the focus of things. When you're on P.R.I.Z.E, just like when you are, and I'm on here with you, you are the focus. I want to know about you. And if you're ready to hear men talk about what's going on, I'm trying to crack that man open, trying to get to the gooey parts so we can find out what's really going on. January 1st, 2024, we get started. And you can find that at harveylaguerre.com. It's simple. That's my website. First 2 seasons are there. Season 3 will be coming. But as of right now, what I'm having so much fun doing is recording with an amazing person, a wonderful person, the woman who brought these kids that I carry and I watch and I supervise into this world. The podcast, the actual original podcast that got me into doing P.R.I.Z.E, Love is Black, is the podcast. We are 5 seasons in, talking about Black love, presenting it in its original, perfect situation. Black love is a beautiful thing, and we show it. It's love like anything else, but it's beautiful because it's ours. First few seasons, we've just been talking about ourselves. This time, we were just talking about, ironically enough, that's who's calling. but in this podcast, we've talked about our relationship. We've talked about other people's relationship. We've talked about great love stories. But the best thing that we're doing now is we're writing a love story together. So as we record now, as we speak, week to week, you can go to loveisblackpodcast.com and you can listen to this book that we're writing. It's a love story week to week. You can find P.R.I.Z.E at harveylaguerre.com. You can find the podcast I do with my wife at loveisblackpodcast.com. And you can just type my name in, Harvey Laguerre. If you go to my website, all my social media and stuff is there. But if you really want to find me, P.R.I.Z.E, to get this vision, to get this kind of feel from me, but Love is Black is more about how I love and how I love talking about love. And I do it with my love.
Well, Harvey, I want you to know that I love you. And I have loved truly, deeply this conversation. This is a conversation. I would say the first time I talked to you, I didn't know how much I needed the conversation. Today, I was well aware how much I needed this conversation. And so for the rest of you who have been listening, I'm sure you've been touched, you've been inspired, you've been blessed. Again, please make sure you send this to somebody who needs it. And also just another reminder, some of you, maybe you're listening this season, you're thinking, man, I want to know how to be a part of this podcast, how to support this podcast. We're currently looking for show sponsors right now. We have multiple show sponsorship packages available, and we would love to give you an opportunity to join in. Like, the reality is we're up and coming, we're new, and this stuff ain't cheap. And so if you are willing to support the podcast, you see the information right there. You see the links, whether you're watching on YouTube or you're watching wherever podcasts are heard. And so if you are interested in being a show sponsor, please reach out. Let us know, because we could use the support. We would love the support. And we want you to know that the support opportunities are available. And what else is available is that Hope Rising ain't done yet. So make sure you come back next Monday. And also, you guys know it already. This season, I'm going live every Thursday. So join me live on Thursday on YouTube and Facebook, as well as LinkedIn. I'm coming back fresh for something this Thursday. You don't want to miss it. And so again, thank you to Harvey Laguerre. This has been special. I'm quite sure this is not going to be the last time you're going to be on this podcast, because I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of people who want to hear this conversation part 2 with Jason included, which would be a special thing. And so thank you again for being here. And thank you for all the listeners and all the viewers for joining us again on Hope Rising, where the unfulfilled go for fulfillment and the uninspired go for inspiration. We'll see you soon.